Sweet dreams are made of this. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world in the...
It is a typical rainy early summer day in Manhattan. Ruth is in the taxi on the way to her publishing agent to talk about her book launch party tonight for her latest book called Deception. The book was very personal to her, as it took her 3 weeks to write the book after a fucked up breakup. Oh, that breakup had changed her from being shy to more assertive, and that man helped her to finally find her voice after all these years. She is still hurt at what he did, as she felt he took advantage of her kindness, knowing full well what he was getting into without telling her everything. As a result, she let her walls down and let him in, to only disappoint her. Since then, dating has been a pain in the ass, and dating apps have not been any help. She took a negative situation and turned it positive. Over the years, Ruth has attended many charity events, film premieres, and nothing beats what will happen tonight. Her fabulous book release party. Oh, she is so excited for it. And this is a day that even the most cynical woman dreams of all her life. When she began publishing erotica, some of her close friends laughed at her, and when her book sold, the laughing turned into praising. Later, her friends laughed at her when she produced her nightly short stories erotica audio podcast. When her podcast became successful, her friends once again praised her. Then she went public on her private social media page that she is an author of erotic stories. One person personally messaged her to tell her that she is dirty for writing them. 5 people unfriended her, and some were curious and went to her website to read her writing. Only few knew the truth, or at least her ex's version of what happened, and wanted to know the full story, thinking they would find clues in her fantasy stories. The truth is, her ex wasn't part of her short stories. In fact, her ex pushed her to her limit after the breakup, and she found writing therapeutic. It didn't matter what her friends or peers thought. She finally found her voice and made a business from it. Ruth walked into the venue and saw Blake barking orders. Oh my God, where are the flowers? Everything has to be white. White tablecloths, white dishes, and food. Everything perfectly white for tonight. Oh, sorry, sir. The flowers just arrived. We will put them on the tables. Oh, fabulous, said Blake. Blake, her PR agent. He is 5'9", blonde hair, blue eyes, a former model who started his PR firm after his divorce from his husband 5 years ago. He met Ruth on LinkedIn Writers Group page. When he listened to her erotic audio podcast and read some of her stories, he knew she would be part of his PR firm. They have been besties ever since. This is a sexy event, Ruth. I have picked out your dress for tonight. Since you'll be wearing a designer label, I suggest your Jimmy Choo vamp heels and matching handbag you wore at the Winter's White Gala in London a few years ago. Blake hands the dress bag to her. Oh, thanks, B. Tonight is not just your book release party. It's also a meat market. You know, a lot of eligible bachelors will be there tonight. Oh, Blake, I'm not interested in finding a boyfriend. Remember, they don't want a relationship with a 40-something-year-old woman. They want a hookup, something I don't do. Honey, said Blake as he puts the flowers in a vase on the last table, you and I both know you need to be fucked. Blake was right. Since the breakup, Ruth has been on dating apps, and most of the dates have been a disaster. The date usually goes like this. She meets someone for a date, has dinner, and a we are not right for each other. Translation, guy only went out for dinner hoping to get sex, and Ruth does not do hookups. Frustrated, Ruth founded the S-Spot with Ruth Mead podcast to talk about how shitty dating is in 2024 and beyond. She recently shared on her podcast about her recent date with a lawyer. He tried to get her drunk on a date. The waitress noticed and got him to leave. Yes, Ruth does need sex. More importantly, to find someone to have a relationship with, not a hookup. Later that night, Ruth showed up to the party in style. She had her Sherry Hill pink dress and Jimmy Choo Vamp champagne platform stilettos she bought in London a few years ago. Her hair was in a curly updo, makeup smoky eyes, and signature red lipstick. She felt like a celebrity. and she was a celebrity in the literary world. You look amazing. You are going to be turning heads tonight, Ruth, Blake said as he kissed her on the cheek. So many single men are here. Oh, I might find myself a boyfriend. Ruth took the champagne glass from the waiter and sipped it as she looked around the room. Only about 30 people here, and most had their +1. Hi, your book Deception was amazing. Can you sign it? Said a woman who handed Ruth a pen. My husband cheated on me and, well, he thought I did not know about it, and I pretended that everything was okay until I collected evidence from him cheating, and once I had it, well, I gave him the proof and the divorce papers. You know, when I read your book, I thought, scorned women, unite. There are so many assholes out there. Not all men are assholes, Ruth sighed. There are good ones out there, she said as she handed the book back to the woman. Hi, Ruth, said a familiar voice at a couple of tables over. The man is 6'1", tan skin color, dark brown hair and brown eyes. Oh, he looks so GQ in his tailored, slightly loose-fitting pants and a dressy T-shirt that had his proper logo on the pocket. His sports jacket made him look like he had just come off the runway from a men's fashion show. She looked at him, and he was looking straight at her. Neither smiled, and yet they nodded their heads and acknowledged each other. He wouldn't take his eyes off of her, and she was feeling a little bit uncomfortable. Who is that sexy man? Asked Blake, who was standing next to Ruth. He cannot take his eyes off of you, he nudged her. She didn't recognize him at first. Oh, shit. What? Ruth's heart was pounding. Oh, my God, there's no way. Her mouth is agape. Is that? No. Those were the thoughts swirling in her head. I think that is someone I went to high school with nearly 30 years ago, she tells Blake. She takes a closer look. Oh, my God, it is Gabe. She thought to herself, trying not to panic. She and Blake quickly made their way over to him. You know, I had the biggest crush on him back in the day, she said to Blake. Ruth, said Gabe again. So tell me, how's your writing business going? Any new erotica books? He licked his lips and smiled. Ruth always envied his self-assurance. You've read my books? She nervously responded, tucking a piece of hair behind her ears. Oh, yes, I read your stories the day you began publishing. If I remember correctly, it was after things ended with my cousin Daniel. Pausing to curl his hand around the stem of his wine glass, he raised it thoughtfully to his lips and took a sip and continued. You know, you're a good writer. I am glad writing has helped you heal. He looks at Blake and shakes his hand. Forgive me. I am Gabriel de Santiago, a CFO for a financing company called Warner & Raiders here in Manhattan. Ruth and I grew up together. So, how long have you both been married? Oh, we're not married. He is my agent, Ruth blushed. Oh, I see, Gabe said as he leans close to Ruth and brushes his finger on her arm. How long are you in Manhattan? Well, I have a meeting with Ocean View Media tomorrow, as my latest book might be turned into a movie. You know, Gabe, the last time we had a conversation face-to-face was at our 10-year high school reunion. You asked me about my old crush with James Tomlinson. Gabe laughed. Oh, yes, I remember. You had a big crush on him. I had wondered if you had written stories about him. James? No. He hasn't been in my thoughts since Thanksgiving morning of 20 years ago. What happened? Gabe asked as he hands her a new glass of champagne. A bad date, and that is all I will say on that matter. Gabe's eyes grew wide. Oh, so you finally got to date James. I bet that was a dream come true. Oh, not really. Ruth leans into Gabe's ear. He isn't a good kisser. Gabe smiled wickedly. Not one person has ever talked about James being a bad kisser. Gabe, changing subjects. I hope you're not upset about me writing erotica after the situation with your cousin. Why would I be? What he did, I know messed up with you emotionally. Shocked by his compliment, She accidentally knocked her champagne glass with the heel of her hand, sending a wave of bubbly liquid flying all over the pristine white tablecloth. The klutz strikes again. Ruth was embarrassed. Gabe had risen to his feet, grabbing a white linen napkin to mop up the spill, uncaring that some of it had splashed on his sleeve of his suit. "Oh, I'm so sorry, Gabe." "No need. It happens to everyone." "And so, tell me, how long are you in town?" For 2 weeks. Would you like to grab a coffee while I'm here?" "Yes, I would like that." He hands me his business card. "Call me, and we will set something up." He whispers into Ruth's ear, "You look beautiful tonight."
It's just sex to me, da-da-dum, I